From corporate slave to godly tycoon. Xing Wang was a corporate drone, one of those faceless office workers whose biggest daily thrill was refilling the water bottle without spilling a drop. That is, until the day he unlocked the ultimate freedom system, a cheat code for life where the richer he indulged, the richer he became. It all started with him begging his boss for 2 measly days off to take care of his sick mother. He even promised to make up for any work he missed. But his boss, let's call him Mr. Garbage Human, barely looked up from his phone. The reason? A live stream. And not just any live stream, one with a pretty girl dancing to thumping music while the chat went wild. The boss was a top-tier cumer, the kind who donated enough money to feed a small village just to get called Big Brother on stream. As Xing Wang poured his heart out about his mother's condition, Mr. Garbage Human suggested, without looking away from the screen, that maybe Dad could handle it. Or a relative. Or anyone not named Xing Wang. Unless his mother was on her deathbed, and even then, maybe, no leave would be approved. Then the dancing beauty squealed into the mic. Thank you, Big Brother, for the rocket ship. Rocket ship, 5,000 yen. His mother's life, apparently worth less. Xing Wang's anger boiled. The boss droned on about. Making sacrifices to climb the ladder. And timeliness in new media. So Xing offered to work remotely. The boss shot that down too. Finally, with all the grace of a man flicking lint off his suit, he said, then quit. Settle with finance and get out. Now, Xing Wang was a third-tier university grad in a market where companies preferred first-tier snobs. This job had been his lifeline. But the boss's smug face, yeah, that was the final straw. He lit a cigarette to think things over. But before he could take a drag, his phone rang. Dad. Mom's medical bills hadn't been paid. The hospital had been patient so far, but their patience was running out. Dad insisted he'd covered most of it with insurance and borrowed the rest. But Xing Wang wasn't buying it. He knew there was still a shortfall. He had only 50,000 yen in savings after a year and a half of ramen dinners and sleeping on the top bunk of a shared room. But he'd use every last cent if it meant his family didn't owe anyone. Today, for the first time in his life, he stepped out of line. He marched to HR and 20 minutes later, his status officially changed to unemployed. And that's when it happened. A golden text prompt appeared in front of his eyes. Congratulations. For quitting against your ancestors' wishes, you've been rewarded with 888,888 yen, $112,000. The more you spend, the more you earn. Indulge freely. Xing thought it was a prank. Then he checked his account. The money was actually there. Cue internal screaming. Before he could process his new cheat code, a voice called his name. It was Howen, a gorgeous dance streamer with 8 million fans and the charm of a fox spirit in human form. She wanted to know if he prepared her live stream schedule. Normally, he would have bantered back, but today he told her the truth. I quit. Her eyes widened. Why so suddenly? Howen wasn't the arrogant diva type. She treated him well, partly because he was her operator, partly because he was easy to work with. But she clearly didn't plan to let him go without a fight. Using her most witchy sorry girl voice, she pouted. Don't you want to stay with me? Old Xing Wang might have melted on the spot. New Xing Wang? Your nose makeup's crooked. She froze. No one in her life had ever said that. 10 seconds later she was in front of a mirror, realizing he was right. Ding! The system admires your determination to not be a lapdog. Reward, 230,000 yen. Xing nearly dropped his phone. That was for one comment? What would he get for making his boss kneel? His balance now sat at 1,620,000 yen. Howen, instead of being mad, thanked him for pointing it out and invited him to a farewell dinner. She even offered to help him find a new job with her industry connections. Maybe she wasn't scheming after all. He flipped the script, he'd treat her instead. She worried about his finances, but he grinned and said, I'm leaving anyway. Might as well stop being stingy. When he left the building, he walked differently. Not just because of the money, but because he'd finally shed the corporate chains. Normally, he'd take the bus, the subway, or, if feeling reckless, split a taxi. Today, he ordered the most expensive premium ride on the app. A sleek silver car rolled up, driven by a man in a suit. Just for ordering without looking at the price, the system dropped another 500,000 yen into his account. From top bunk ramen eater to luxury passenger in one afternoon. The driver confirmed his destination. Laoxiang Jianbing, a humble pancake shop. The irony made Xing Wang grin. Because right now, he was a man who could buy the entire street, and still stop for pancakes. That day, another devil was born. The elderly lady at the Jianbing stall knew Xing Wang by face, name, and tragic order history. Usually, no egg, no sausage, just plain, thin salvation wrapped in pancake form. But today was different. I'll take it with egg, he said like a man declaring war. In fact, he could afford all the eggs now. Hell, he could buy the chicken, but 2 eggs would do for now. And while he was at it, 2 pure meat sausages. None of that sad starch-filled stuff that squeaks when you bite it. The line went silent. When he was on his humble 5,000 yen monthly salary, rent chewed up 800 yen, and his food budget was a strict 20 yen a day. 8 yuan plain Jian Bing had saved his life more times than he could count. But adding an egg? That was a luxury for someone else's story. Today, that story was his. He could feel the stares. The men were wondering when they'd be able to flex their eggs and sausages like this. The women, well, some were actually blushing. Ding! The system is impressed by your audacious leap in breakfast standards. Reward, 20,000 yen. He strutted away from the stall, munching happily. The warm yolk, the savory meat, it was the taste of freedom, and also a little bit of spite. He promised himself that next time, he'd add 5 eggs just to see the world burn. From street food to streetwear. Back in his student days, entertainment meant free events and praying the internet cafe had a first hour free promotion. Then came his corporate days, less money, less time, more misery. Now, aimlessly wandering, he found himself in front of a massive shopping mall. Brain blast. If he was treating Hawan to dinner at a high-end restaurant tonight, he couldn't exactly show up looking like a man who bought his clothes by the kilo. Inside, the air smelled like rich people and perfume you couldn't pronounce. Every store name was in English, fancy English. He looked for an Adidas. No luck. This was above Adidas territory. Then he saw it, Louis Vuitton. The shop assistants spotted him immediately, and then collectively decided he wasn't worth the oxygen. Unstyled hair, old phone, bargain bin street clothes, he was broke boy, personified. Not a single one approached. Fine. If they wanted to be snobs, he'd give them a reason to regret it. I'm tired from work, he said loudly. So I just want something worth 150,000 yen and I'll be done. But if you're too busy, maybe I'll just go to Hermes next door. Hermes. The magic word. Suddenly they swarmed, smiles brighter than their jewelry, voices sweeter than bubble tea. One offered tea. Another offered a seat. A third tried to laugh at a joke he hadn't even made yet. So this was the language of money. And it was loud. By the time he was done, he was dressed head to toe in high-end threads, exuding an aura so sharp you could slice bread with it. They even carried his bags for him. One salesgirl invited him to an exclusive jewelry event, another offered to have his purchases delivered to his home. He declined, partly because he liked carrying his own bags, partly because flexing them in public was half the fun. As he left, he overheard some women sighing that they couldn't afford LV or Hermes. He glanced at his purchases and smiled. Yesterday, he couldn't either. Today, he couldn't wait to spend more. Ding! First major spending milestone achieved. Reward 660,000 yen, $90,000. From penny-pinching peasant to almost millionaire in a single shopping trip. Dinner in the big leagues. If before he'd eat greasy street noodles, now he was heading straight for Lingwu Western, the most expensive restaurant in the city. And for the first time in his life, he looked like he belonged. At the entrance, a beautiful waitress greeted him like he was royalty and escorted Mr. H. to a private room. Hawan wasn't there yet, but the waitress assured him important guests didn't need to wait in public. Inside, desserts and tea were already laid out. The view from the 4th floor was breathtaking, city lights glittering like treasure. This was the first time he'd seen the skyline from above without needing to sneak into a rooftop. Clothes really did make the man. Money really did buy respect. And right now, both were his. Before dinner, he discreetly transferred 100,000 yen to his father. Not too much, he didn't want to shock the old man into asking too many questions. If Dad asked, he'd just say it was part-time savings. Easy. After all, he had plenty more where that came from. While our hero lounged in a private room at Lingyu Western, sipping tea and nibbling on free desserts like a newly crowned aristocrat, Hawan was, well, working her tail off. She was mid-broadcast, dancing her heart out while donation rockets poured in from her loyal fans. The chat was going wild. Viewers were sending one after another, the little animation of exploding fireworks lighting up her screen. There's a reason her streams pulled such huge numbers, and yes, you know exactly what I mean. Meanwhile, Xingwan had already sent her the location of the restaurant, but of course she didn't read it. She was too busy smiling, twirling, and thanking her fans while silently praying her makeup didn't melt under the stage lights. Finally, after hours of performing, she wrapped it up with her signature sign-off. That's all for today, lovelies, catch the follow-up tomorrow. Collapsing into her chair with sweat-damp hair, she was seconds away from savoring her first sip of water when, boom, her friends appeared, chattering like caffeinated parrots. They wanted to drag her out for dinner. Hawan shook her head. Sorry, I've already got plans tonight. This, naturally, set off alarms in the gossip department. One friend immediately narrowed her eyes. You've got someone. Who's the lucky guy? Is it a rich fan? Be honest. Hawan sighed. It's not like that. It's just Xingwan. Dead silence. Then, in perfect harmony, her friends. You still think about that loser? No. Hawan insisted, rolling her eyes. He helped me a lot when we worked at the company. This is just a farewell dinner. He's treating, that's all. The magic word. Treating. Suddenly, the dinner invitation seemed far more appealing to her friends. The blonde one perked up immediately. She'd had a long day and was ready to treat herself a little. Jinoo also wanted in, swearing up and down that she wasn't the type to take advantage of others. In reality, she was dying to see what kind of fancy restaurant a man who never added an egg to his pancake would pick. Makeup removed and heels on, the girls headed to the parking lot, where Howin's brand new car gleamed under the dim lights. Even the blonde had to admit she was jealous. I can't even get ad contracts these days. Who knows when I'll be able to afford something like this? Try dance streaming, Howin suggested casually. Too tiring, her friend groaned. I'll just wait for some big brother to marry me and pull me out of this industry. Pfft. In this industry, it's good enough not to get used by big brothers. Jinoo shot back. The conversation then took a nosedive into cynicism. Jinoo even implied Howin must have had arrangements with rich fans to get where she was. Howin let it slide. She was too used to this kind of talk. But then came the real shocker. Howin finally checked her phone to confirm the dinner spot. Her jaw froze. Oh no, it's that bad? Jinoo smirked. Actually, Howin started. It was Lingyu, the real Lingyu. 3 Michelin stars, 3,000 yuan minimum per person, and impossible to book unless you were either famous, powerful, or blessed by the reservation gods. Jen Qingqing's jaw hit the floor. There's no way that cheapskate invited us there. He must have secretly gotten a promotion. Or, Jinoo sneered. It's a restaurant with the same name in the same building. Some people like to post fancy locations to pretend they're rich. Howin rolled her eyes. He's not like that. You'll see. The city streets were clear that night, and Howin's new car glided along smoothly. Even Jen had to admit it was a dream to ride in. As they drove, Jinoo couldn't resist giving her professional advice. You're gorgeous. Lower the neckline, soften the voice, and you'll be swimming in rockets. Doesn't matter if it's dance or beauty, rich fans will send gifts. Then you won't worry about ad deals ever again. Jen wrinkled her nose. Pass. Most of my viewers are girls anyway. Suit yourself. Jinoo shrugged. As for me, if some rich guy proposed, I'd be a full-time housewife tomorrow. Through all this, Howin was silent, until she finally spoke. Her philosophy was different. If you rely entirely on a man's money, you're in a vulnerable position. He can replace you anytime. I'd rather be financially independent. Jinoo smirked. Says the woman who dances more provocatively than anyone on stream. Howin didn't even flinch. Men might betray her. Money never would. By the time they finally rolled into the underground parking lot beneath the swanky restaurant, Howin was striding ahead like she owned the place. But Jan Qingqing, ever the cautious one, darted in front of her. Wait, she whispered urgently, as if they were about to defuse a bomb. Are we sure this is the right place Hang invited us to? You know how he is. Even with Howin's high monthly income, she wasn't exactly the type to burn cash for fun. What if Hang had sent the wrong address? What if this wasn't even the right restaurant? Shernua nodded in solemn agreement. To her, there was nothing more humiliating than strolling into a high-end restaurant like you belonged there, only to be turned away because you didn't have a reservation. And if one of their live stream viewers saw the whole fiasco, the video would go viral before the night was over, and poof, there went their dignity and their follower count. So, Howin pulled out her phone to call Hang. Dial tone. No answer. She tried again. Same thing. Shernua, meanwhile, was internally cackling like a Disney villain. In her head, this was all Howin's fault for hanging around show-offs. Serves her right. Outwardly, however, she put on her supportive friend mask. Maybe something happened to him. Come on, he wouldn't mess with you on purpose. We're here already. Let's at least go upstairs and check. Truth be told, Shernua was dying to see Beijing's top-rated restaurant for herself. Howin shrugged and led them toward the elevator. Lingwei was notoriously expensive, and although she could afford it, Hang definitely couldn't, at least not on his salary. If this was just some elaborate joke, she'd end up footing the bill for everyone. At the entrance, Howin peeked around the corner like a spy in a bad drama. No Hang. Her stomach sank. She tried calling again, still nothing. Then, a waitress appeared out of nowhere. Do you have a reservation? Howin froze, but before she could mumble something awkward, Shernua confidently said, Yes. Now trapped in the lie, Howin had to go along with it. It should be under Hang Xingwang. Shernua smirked. The guy made barely 5,000 yuan a month. One dinner here could cost 3 months of his salary. This was going to be delicious. But to her shock, the waitress simply smiled. Right this way, please. Mr. Hang has been waiting for you for quite some time. Shernua's jaw hit the floor. Wait. What? The waitress led them toward the VIP elevator. The one that whisks only the richest guests to the private dining suites on the top floor. Even Qingqing was getting nervous now. What if this was a mix-up? What if they accidentally barged in on the wrong Mr. Hang? As they reached the 40th floor, Another immaculate waitress welcomed them. Still no sign of Hang. Ching, unfazed, immediately began taking photos of the luxurious surroundings. If she couldn't eat here for real, she could at least pretend for Instagram. Shernua, however, was growing restless. She was sure Hang wasn't coming. Then, the door to one of the private rooms opened, and there he was, Hang Xingwang, groggily waking from a nap. He'd been waiting so long for them that he'd fallen asleep. Seeing their missed calls, he apologized and waved the waitress over to start serving. And that's when the magic trick happened. Gone was the hoodie-wearing, average-looking office worker. In his place was a man dressed head to toe in designer labels, radiating quiet wealth. Even the jacket alone looked like it could pay someone's rent for months. Shernua was burning with envy. How had this, nobody, been hiding so much money? Inheritance? A secret business? Witchcraft? Hang greeted Haoan warmly, nodded at Ching, and only gave Shernua the barest of polite acknowledgments. She turned on her best charm, but he wasn't buying it. He remembered her overly filtered live stream videos and was unimpressed. Then came the food. Plate after plate of the restaurant's most extravagant dishes arrived, along with a bottle of wine so pricey that even Haoan started sweating. Ching sighed dreamily. Wow, you must have inherited some big family business. Hang, however, looked bored. The fancy dishes weren't to his taste. Do you have barbecue skewers? Some grilled kidneys? Maybe crab? Oh, and chunks of beef and lamb, real, hearty food. The waitress blinked in horror. Sir, this is a French restaurant. We only serve the set menu. Hang smiled politely. Then called the manager. Enter the manager, a pudgy man in glasses, full of dignity and restraint. That lasted all of 30 seconds. I'll pay 300,000 yuan for the meal. Hang said casually. And an extra 50,000 tip if you can make it happen. The man melted faster than butter on a hot skillet. Right away, sir. The girls sat in stunned silence as the manager bowed his way out of the room. A short while later, the impossible happened. A Michelin-starred French restaurant served street food on the top floor of the tallest building in Beijing. Perfectly plated skewers, grilled meats, steaming hot crab, the works. Ching practically vibrated with excitement. She couldn't wait to post. Barbecue at a 3-star Michelin in Beijing. Just to watch the internet lose its mind. By the end of the meal, the table was littered with neatly stacked empty skewers. Hang excused himself to the restroom, and the moment he was out of earshot, the speculation began. His outfit alone is worth at least $22,000. Ching whispered. Maybe he's just here to get close to Haoan. Shernua suggested. Or maybe he's a rich second-gen pretending to be a regular office worker. They all agreed on one thing. If this was fake, it was the best act they'd ever seen. Shernua, never one to let a mystery go, decided she had to verify whether Hang was the real deal or a top-tier poser. Haoan told her to knock it off. After all, he just treated them to one of the strangest, most expensive dinners of their lives. Shernua only smirked. Trust me. I'll find out. The party of 4 had just wrapped up dinner and were strolling toward the parking lot. If Xingwang was really just faking his wealth, then Haoan was more than ready to cover all the expenses tonight. She wasn't about to let a hardworking man go down such a shady path. In her mind, there was nothing wrong with an honest, simple life, though she suspected that honesty wasn't exactly on tonight's menu. Breaking the silence, Ching leaned over and asked Xingwang if he had a girlfriend. Without hesitation, he confessed he'd been single since birth. Romantically bankrupt, as he put it. The answer stunned her. She clearly expected a playboy response. But here was a man whose dating life was so dry, it could spontaneously combust. Truth was, Xingwang was married to his career, and being a corporate slave was exhausting enough. Add a relationship into the mix? No, thank you. The thought of taking care of another human being when he could barely take care of himself was downright terrifying. Since it was only 5 minutes past 9, Sinyo piped up with a suggestion. Let's go to a bar. My treat. Specifically, she wanted to hit Fug Bar, a hotspot for internet celebrities. Prime networking territory. Xingwang didn't see any harm in it, so off they went. On the drive, he glanced at Haoan in the passenger seat and thought, maybe I could start my own media company someday. I've got the operations background. I could meet influencers. I could be the next industry titan. Upon arrival, Sinyo gave a disclaimer. I can only cover 2 drinks per person. No one minded. This wasn't a night for luxury, just fun. In the parking lot, luxury cars gleamed under the streetlights, their owners no doubt dripping with money. Xingwang, however, was just excited to finally set foot in the legendary Fug Bar. Inside, the bass was pounding, the DJ was hyping the crowd, and let's just say there was a lot of hands-on interaction happening that wouldn't pass YouTube moderation. The 4 found an empty booth. Sinyo ordered a margarita and encouraged everyone else to get whatever they wanted. Ching went for a pink lady. Haoan played it safe with a lime mojito, still had to drive, and Sinyo watched Xingwang like a hawk. Anything's fine, he said vaguely when asked. So she took the liberty of ordering him a Long Island iced tea, perfect for getting someone drunk enough to spill their secrets. This which was clearly on a mission to prove the man was broke. The music blared, the drinks flowed, and Sinuo decided it was time to spice things up. She proposed a game of dice, with a twist. Lose a round? Remove a piece of clothing. Or buy your dignity back for 10,000 yuan. Xingwang smirked. You do realize I used to be the company's operations manager, right? I know all about you. And I know you're a dice shark. Translation, nice try, sweetheart. Her plan to humiliate and possibly extort him died right there. Xingwang wasn't the pushover she thought he was. He called her toxic trash to her face, and as if on cue, his mysterious system rewarded him with a casual 1 million yuan for standing his ground, bringing his balance to 1.89 million. Yes, I'm not from a rich family, he admitted. Sinuo pounced on it as proof he was faking it. But before she could finish her victory lap, he leaned forward and said, I'll give you 300,000 yuan to strip naked and walk out of the bar right now. She instantly switched to damsel in distress mode. Howen had to step in before the tension went nuclear. Sinuo tried again to poke holes in his bravado. You don't have 300,000 to throw away. Wrong move. Xingwang stood up, raised his voice, and announced to the entire bar. Drinks are on me. 300,000 yuan, everyone, drink up. The golden card came out, the staff swiped it, and the room erupted. He wasn't just rich. He was obnoxiously rich. Another system reward hit his account, 600,000 yuan. He walked past Sinuo and whispered, I don't care if you look down on me. I never wanted your respect anyway. She sat in shame while Qing and Howen exchanged yikes looks. Moments later, Sinuo fled the booth, fake smile in place, tears in her eyes the second she hit the parking lot. But the night wasn't done yet. A random girl approached Howen, mocking her about a supposedly failed stream and her top fan. Spending less lately? The stranger was fishing for drama, and got it when she invited Howen to do a live PK battle right there in the bar. Howen didn't want to, but her agency called and made it clear, go live or face consequences. Soon, the dance floor cleared for the duel. Ji, her challenger, had her fanbase ready to donate her to victory. Howen, still under the weather, was falling behind both in performance and donations, until Big Brother appeared. Rocket after rocket donation blasted into her stream, tilting the balance. Nobody knew who Big Brother was, but Xingwang was quietly sitting in the booth, tapping his phone like a man speedrunning a mobile game. Each tap equaled thousands in real cash, and his system kept rewarding him with millions for the generosity. By the end of the match, Howen had won, and Xingwang, still anonymous, had dropped so much money that the entire platform had him listed as top donor of the day. Howen ended the stream thanking Big Brother and reminding her fans not to waste their money on her, which, of course, only made them love her more. Meanwhile, Ji sulked in the corner. She had planned to humiliate Howen and take her crown. Instead, she'd accidentally given her rival the biggest boost of her career. Xingwang strolled past and patted her shoulder. You've got so many big brothers. Keep working hard. Maybe someday you'll beat her. And with that final jab, he left the club. Another night of chaos, cash, and crushed egos in the books. Outside the club, the party of three was still buzzing. Well, at least Qing was. She just could not stop talking about Ji's humiliation. The karmic satisfaction was practically radiating off her. In her mind, the universe had just handed her a front-row ticket to poetic justice. And then came the part she found even juicier. The mysterious super-rich Big Brother who'd tossed around money like he was competing for the title of #1 tycoon on the platform. As a streamer herself, she was in awe. In fact, she was already mentally drafting her. Hey there, mysterious benefactor eyes. DMs. Strangely, Howen didn't seem thrilled at all. She confessed that she actually felt unworthy. Tens of millions had just landed in her bank account from a fan she had never even seen in her chat before. Instead of feeling overjoyed, she had this gnawing unease, like a cat staring at a suspiciously generous bowl of tuna. Qing, however, saw no reason for philosophical doubts. Girl, wake up! Treasure this godsend of a donator, she urged. And because subtlety was not her strong suit, she flat out asked for the user ID. Then, without shame, she brazenly sent the big spender a private message. The second she hit send, ding! Xingwang's phone lit up with a notification. The girls froze. The ringtone was the official notification sound of the streaming app. That was a little too coincidental. Howen gave him a long, suspicious look. You wouldn't happen to. Nope. No way. Totally unrelated. Xingwang interrupted, scrambling for a cover story like a kid caught with cookie crumbs on his shirt. He mumbled something about dealing with numerous business messages. But given that moments ago someone had dropped millions, and the Big Brother in question would need to be worth billions, his denial wasn't exactly convincing. Qing also couldn't help noticing that Big Brother Wang and Xingwang sounded awfully similar. Before things could get any more awkward, Howen changed the subject and offered to drive him home. He refused, insisting on just catching a cab. But the night wasn't done throwing plot twists. As they stepped toward the street, a drunken man stumbled out of the club. Haoen's expression instantly shifted, tight jaw, stiff shoulders. She knew him. Unfortunately, everyone knew him. It was Xinguang's former boss. And the man was in rare, obnoxious form. "Unemployed people shouldn't be going to bars. Living off women's money," he slurred. Haoen quickly cut in. "Actually, we were the ones relying on Xinguang tonight for dinner and drinks." The drunk blinked, shocked by what he clearly thought was a ridiculous claim. He decided she was just trying to protect Xinguang's dignity. "No way," the boss scoffed. "The whole bill was covered by a mysterious person. Don't tell me this broke boy treated you. He's got nothing but sweet talk for women." Qing jumped in. "He did treat everyone in the bar." The man whipped around, eyes narrowing. "Shut up. Don't get cocky just because you gained a few fans. They're fake anyway." That one hit Qing like a slap. She froze, the confident, carefree mask cracking. The boss smirked and delivered the real gut punch. The company had bought her followers. Fake fans. Paid watchers. All smoke and mirrors. She was nothing but a money-losing asset, unlike Haoen, who could dance one night and bring in millions. Then, as if to make it even sleazier, he told Qing to wear less during her tutorials instead of pretending to be pure. Maybe she could go the dance streamer route. And for Haoen? He dangled a supporting role in a TV drama. If she agreed to spend the night with him. That was the moment Xinguang's patience snapped. Fueled by righteous fury, he grabbed the man's wrist and told him, with ice in his voice, to show some respect to the ladies. The boss jerked his hand free. "Oh, look at the lowlife trying to play the hero. Can you give her resources? You're wearing a knockoff LV bag covered in logos. Get lost," Xinguang said coldly. Something about his expression in that moment, steady, unflinching, made Haoen pause. He looked like a knight in shining armor. She raised her voice too, warning the boss that if he harassed her again, she'd terminate her contract. He laughed in her face. "You've got a year left. Terminate early and it's 10 million. With tonight's haul you could pay that. But even if you did, no one in this industry would hire you again. One word from the real boss, and you're blacklisted." Xinguang stepped forward. "If she can't leave, fine. I'll just buy Meow Meow Media myself. Then the one leaving will be you." That sobered the drunk, momentarily. Then he sneered, tapping Xinguang on the chest. "I'll wait for you to save up, broke boy." He spat on the ground and swaggered back inside. The damage, however, was done. Qing's earlier excitement was replaced with a gnawing dread. Were all her viewers fake? Just bots and bot numbers? The thought made her stomach churn. Haoen, seeing her friend spiral, stepped in with calm logic. "He's just trying to make you feel like you owe the company everything so you'll stay obedient. You have real fans." That grounded Qing, at least enough to turn her shame into anger. She and Haoen both thanked Xinguang for stepping in, even if it meant ruffling the boss's feathers. Haoen told him he didn't have to do that for her. He just grinned. "I've wanted to blow up at that guy for a long time. Tonight was the perfect chance." They shared a smile, one of mutual respect. When they said goodbye, it was with a handshake that felt like the start of a stronger connection. Haoen and Qing drove off, leaving Xinguang on the curb. He didn't mind. After all, he had a very big secret to protect. A secret that had nearly been blown by a single notification sound. By the end of the day, his bank account sat at a jaw-dropping 109 million yuan. At this rate, billionaire status wasn't far off. He decided to book a flight home. Train tickets felt too ordinary now. The price tags on first-class seats made his eye twitch. The green train had been only 300 yuan, but he tapped, confirm, anyway. Sure, Shiha Airlines had just scammed 4,000 yuan out of him, but the system immediately rewarded him with 10,000 for picking the most expensive option. Sometimes being extra paid off. That night, he returned to his dorm, collapsed into bed, and let the chaos of the evening fade into the sweetest sleep he'd had in years. Xinguang was having the kind of peaceful morning that made his bed feel like a cloud, a rare moment of serenity he intended to stretch out for as long as possible. Unfortunately, peace has a natural enemy, the landlord. Bang! 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 The door rattled under the assault of the landlady's fists, accompanied by her nasal voice demanding rent like a debt collector in a bad TV drama. Hearing her instantly triggered Xinguang's fight-or-flight response, except instead of fighting or fleeing, he just lay there with a twitch in his eye. This wasn't the first time. Every month, exactly 1 week before rent was due, she launched her friendly reminders campaign. He called it psychological warfare. By 6 a.m., he gave up on sleep, stumbled to the door, and opened it, phone in hand. She immediately launched into a rant about lazy young people and responsibility, while waving a QR code in his face. Without saying a word, he scanned it, and boom, transferred the rent. Not just for this month, but for the entire year. 10,000 yuan. Paid in full. Her phone dinged, and her eyebrows shot up. As far as she knew, this broke kid couldn't scrape together enough coins to pay for instant noodles, let alone 12 months of rent in one shot. She was still processing the shock when she noticed an extra 400 yuan in the transfer. Service fee. Xinguang yawned, before slamming the door. For the first time in recorded history, the landlady was speechless. Back in bed, he planned to snooze until 9 a.m. His flight wasn't until 10. But his roommate from the lower bunk poked his head up. "Bro, did you hit the jackpot or something?" Xinguang didn't answer. He was already back in dreamland. When he woke again, it wasn't the alarm clock but the system in his head delivering news, for his display of financial dominance, and maybe the service fee tip he'd been rewarded with, a villa. In Swan Bay. In Sang City. Our boy sat bolt upright, nearly headbutting the ceiling. Forget coffee, this was better than caffeine. He vaulted off the top bunk. His roommate asked where he was going in such a hurry. "Home," Xinguang called over his shoulder, already halfway out the door. The first stop was the hospital, where his mom was staying. His dad was peeling apples for her, and they both lit up when they saw him. Dad casually mentioned they'd already received the 100,000 yuan he'd sent from part-time work. Mom was immediately suspicious. That kind of money didn't come from handing out flyers. Dad, however, knew his son wasn't the type to go down shady paths. But Xinguang wasn't here for praise, he was here to check on his mom's health. She reassured him it was just a minor surgery, vitals looking good, nothing to worry about. He still looked like he'd run straight from the airport, drenched in sweat. Then Dad asked how work was going. Xinguang, honest to a fault, admitted he'd quit. His parents blinked at him but didn't scold. They knew their son, when he landed on his feet, it was usually somewhere better. When the conversation turned to medical bills, Dad admitted most of the borrowed money had already been paid back, except for one loan from a certain relative. The way he said relative made it sound like a curse word. Xinguang's face darkened. He knew exactly which uncle it was. He hated owing that man even a single coin. Without another word, he stormed out, determined to pay it off immediately. Mom started crying, blaming herself for the family's troubles. Xinguang reassured her, things were going to change. His part-time job, the system, meant money was no longer a problem. Outside the hospital, he hopped on the back of a tricycle taxi and told the driver to take him to 32 Hatong Road. The road was so bumpy it felt like the tricycle was auditioning for a rodeo. When Xinguang asked why the repairs from 2 years ago hadn't fixed anything, the driver just sighed. The contractors ran off with the money. Officials took a cut. Now the road's worse than before. By the time they arrived, Xinguang was fuming. Corruption was bad enough, but here, in his hometown, it was just plain ugly. He paid the driver via WeChat, this was China, after all, and turned to face his uncle's massive house. The thing was a 100 square meter mansion, and it made him grit his teeth. Years ago, his grandfather's relocation compensation had mysteriously ended up in this branch of the family. Now his parents lived in a cramped brick box while these people flaunted their wealth. He banged on the gate. The one who answered was Wang Ju, a red-haired beauty in pants that could only be described as highly questionable. "Why are you here?" he asked bluntly. Before she could reply, his cousin swaggered out, draping an arm around her shoulders. "She's gonna be your cousin-in-law." He smirked before giving her a little slap on the rear like he was claiming a prize pig at the county fair. Xinguang didn't care about their love life. He just wanted to see his uncle and be done with this debt. But Wang Ju, assuming he was acting cold because he still liked her, smiled sweetly and remarked on how pathetic he looked. No brands, no flash. City life, she implied, hadn't done him any favors. Her man puffed out his chest and bragged about wearing Adidas and Nike whenever he wanted. Xinguang almost laughed. This guy was flexing sportswear in front of a man who'd just been gifted a luxury villa. The dumb couple let Xinguang in, and there he found his uncle sprawled in the lavish living room, playing cards with a few equally distinguished drinking buddies. Uncle, never one to miss a chance to flex, introduced his big city nephew to the gang, with just the faintest whiff of condescension dripping from his tone. The bumpkin card players jumped right in, asking if life in the city meant Xinguang was raking in the big bucks. They'd heard tales of people moving to the big cities and earning hundreds of thousands. Enter Cousin Dai, human embodiment of a gut punch. With a grin that begged to be slapped, he told the room that Xinguang worked like a horse. For a mere 5,000 yuan a month, while here in the village, they paid old ladies 3,000 just to feed pigs. He then twisted the knife further, speculating aloud that after rent and expenses, our hero might actually be poorer than the pig feeders. Xinguang ignored the circus act. He was here on business, not for a roast session. Calmly, he told his uncle he'd come to repay the debt. Uncle, more focused on his poker hand than the conversation, waved it off with a smile, assuring him there was no rush. After all, he understood how tough things must be for poor city folk, like Xinguang's family. And besides, interest was running. This wasn't charity. Xinguang stayed polite but firm. He wouldn't leave until the debt was cleared. Uncle resisted at first, offering an installment plan, but finally gave in and called for the red account book. Cousin Dai brought it over and, for a fleeting second, actually looked sympathetic. Uncle launched into a speech about how families should help each other, but the college graduate was too prideful to accept it. Xinguang let him finish, then calmly transferred 51,000 yuan, debt and interest, straight into his uncle's account. Uncle's Nokia buzzed, and the man's eyes nearly popped out of his skull. He checked the balance again, just to be sure. The kid really did it. "Where'd you get the money?" he asked, stunned. "Working in the city," Xinguang replied simply, already heading for the door. Cousin Dai sneered, convinced the money had come at his mother's expense. Sure, that might have been true a few days ago, but not anymore. That's when Wanju, Dai's fiancé, decided to see him off. She claimed she wanted to clear up misunderstandings, since they'd soon be family. Dai liked the idea, probably thinking his girl could remind Xinguang of his place. Wanju jogged after him, opened with a dramatic sigh, and told him to stop holding on to any old feelings for her. They'd grown up together, she said. She knew he'd always liked her, but she'd only ever seen him as a little brother. Soon she'd be Mrs. Dai, so he should let go, for the sake of the family's reputation. Xinguang looked at her like she just declared herself Queen of Mars. She wasn't even in his thoughts. Unbothered, she kept talking, warning that rumors would go against common decency. That's when Xinguang lost it. He laughed, told her to go look in a mirror, and walked on. Her smile cracked. The friendly mask came off. She snarled that he was delusional if he thought graduating from a second-rate university and living in the city meant he'd ever outshine her precious Dai. Life, she lectured, was about being rich and comfortable, like her future in-laws, who lounged in a 100-square-meter house while poor saps like him crammed into tiny apartments, drowning in debt. She even brought up his sick mother and hospital bills, claiming either 5,000 nor 50,000 a month would fix that. Xinguang's patience wore thin. He told her she was no different from her greedy in-laws, just a narcissistic painted toad who mistook money for worth. She jabbed a finger in his face. He grabbed it, turned it back toward her, and advised her to stay put in her big comfy house with her future husband, and stop harming others. He left without another glance. Moments later, a car roared past, splashing him with muddy water. Surprise, Cousin Dai. He rolled down the window just to laugh, then offered Xinguang a job at his construction site. After all, his company had just won a road-building contract from the First City Construction Bureau. Suddenly, the mystery of the town's terrible roads made perfect sense. Instead of swallowing the insult, Xinguang went straight to the bureau and sponsored proper road construction, effectively yanking the contract out from under Dai's corrupt nose. The townspeople were thrilled and promised they'd always remember his kindness. This system rewarded him with 100 houses. Even Xinguang, who was used to the system's generosity, was floored. He didn't even know what to do with all that property. Still, better 100 houses than none, right? But as he stood there, he began to wonder. The rewards were getting bigger and stranger. First cash, now real estate. What next? The wealth of the whole world? No answer yet. But he had a feeling he'd find out. Daytime at the hospital. The dutiful son, Heng Xinguang, was peeling apples for his mom, a warm, quiet mother-son moment straight out of a sentimental drama. Then the doctor and nurses marched in, all smiles. They informed them that the surgery was successful and mom could now be discharged. Discharged? Already? Xinguang's eyebrows practically leapt off his forehead. The surgery had been just yesterday. Recovery time? Observation? Post-op care? Apparently not in this hospital's vocabulary. He immediately protested, loudly. The fees wouldn't be a problem, he assured them. The doctor's smile slipped. His expression hardened. He told them the discharge papers were already processed and ordered the nurses to start packing her things. Xinguang refused to budge. There was clearly something fishy going on. Worried about making a scene, Mom tried to calm him down. Don't make trouble, son. It's fine. No need to spend more money on medical fees. The doctor pounced on that, parroting her words and telling Xinguang to be a good son and listen to his mother. Then, with all the tact of a jackhammer, he instructed the nurses to clean up any trace of poverty. That did it. Xinguang slammed the apple knife onto the table with a thunk, making Dr. Bastard flinch. The doctor puffed himself back up and threatened to call security if Xinguang kept causing trouble. Still, Mom pleaded for him to let it go. But Xinguang, fists clenched, was already planning his next move. He assured her he wouldn't use force this time. In the chief physician's office, Dr. Bastard, yes, we're sticking with that, was on the phone, reassuring a client that the room was cleared for the next patient. That patient? Someone with a sprained ankle. On the other end of the call was none other than Xinguang's cousin, Heng Dai, congratulating the doctor for working fast. Dr. Bastard chuckled, pocketing an envelope of cash, muttering about how letting Brokies drowning in debt take up hospital space was a waste. What a pair of saints. Unbeknown to them, Xinguang was standing just outside the door, listening to every word. If they wanted to play the money game, he'd happily play along and win. Next stop, the hospital director's office. Xing Wang strolled in casually. The director, confused, asked who he was. The young man introduced himself as just an ordinary patient. The director, unimpressed, told him to go talk to the registration desk. Instead, Xing Wang dropped his opening line like a bomb. I'd like to donate a building to the hospital. The director waved him off, until the words sank in. His glasses nearly fell off. Did this kid even know how much a medical building cost? Xing Wang assured him he'd already looked into it. A small county hospital building cost about 1 million yuan, pocket change for him. Oh, and while they were at it, he wanted an investigation into corruption among the staff. The director's smile soured. He bristled at the implication that his hospital harbored corruption. Decades in the industry, he claimed, and he trusted his principal doctors. So Xing Wang told him the story, how his mother, fresh from surgery, was being booted for someone with a sprained ankle. The director refused to believe it. It didn't fit. Hospital procedure. Then Xing Wang pulled out his trump card, a voice recording of Dr. Bastard and Cousin Dai's little scheme. The director listened. And then, denied again. Recordings can be faked. This old bat was either hopelessly naive or very good at playing dumb. Fine. Time for move 2. Xing Wang called up Engineer Kong from City Construction Unit 1 and, in the most casual tone imaginable, ordered a new building for the hospital like he was ordering takeout. Then he handed the phone to the director. The director's eyes widened as Kong congratulated him on getting a free building out of nowhere. 5 minutes later, the director's entire attitude had done a backflip. Xing Wang repeated his terms, a proper investigation, severe punishment for the corrupt doctor, and fair treatment for all patients. To sweeten the deal, he upped the donation to 2 buildings. The director nearly choked. When asked for his name, Xing Wang played the humble card. Just an ordinary kid from a farming family doing what's right. He almost sounded cool, until he added, You can call me the messenger of justice. The moment was dead. Still, as soon as Xing Wang left, the director grabbed his phone and barked orders to bring him the most recent discharge records immediately. Looks like justice, and 2 brand new hospital buildings, were on the way. Later that day, a nurse nervously approached Dr. Li to inform him that the director was waiting for him outside the ward. The moment the director appeared, his face thunderous, he laid out the case against Dr. Bastard, in all its ugly detail. Li's knees gave out instantly. Director, please! Don't fire me! I have elderly parents, young kids, hungry fish. He was crying so hard, it was hard to tell if he was asking for mercy or auditioning for a soap opera. The director, looking at him like he was an insect with a medical license, spat out. A doctor without ethics will never be welcome in this hospital. Meanwhile, back at Hang Dai's house, the man himself was sprawled out enjoying a massage, bragging to his gold-digging wife about his bright future. Soon, he claimed, they'd be buying a house in the city. His daydream was interrupted when his brother barged in, fuming. Turns out his wife, the one with the sprained ankle, had just been kicked out of the hospital thanks to Dai's little backdoor deal. This was news to Dai, who, in a panic, whipped out his phone to fix it. He called Dr. Li, only to find the number had been disconnected. Oh dear. At the Hang family home, Xing Wang had just returned with his mother. This time after a proper discharge. Boxes of medical equipment were rolled in behind them, followed by a caretaker. His mom, concerned about costs, asked if this was going to bleed their savings dry. Xing Wang smiled and said, Nope. The hospital arranged it. Dr. Li was fired for malpractice. This is their apology gift. Before she could even reply, Dai stormed through the gate, shouting accusations. He'd spent over 10,000 yuan on a hospital bed and now it was all for nothing. Not realizing how much he was incriminating himself, Dai blabbered about bribes and connections, practically confessing in front of everyone. Xing Wang just raised an eyebrow and said, If I'm such a nobody, making 5,000 yuan a month in a shoebox apartment, how exactly could I topple such a big boss like your friend? Dai's brain blue-screened. Out of mental ammo, he stormed off, yelling that Xing Wang would die broke. Xing Wang simply watched him go, thinking, dumb and evil, what a terrifying combo. On his way home, Dai spotted what looked like Manager Kong heading towards Xing Wang's place. He dismissed the idea immediately. Surely a big shot like that wouldn't be visiting his bumpkin cousin. Wrong. Kong arrived at Xing Wang's door with a big smile and some fat slabs of meat as gifts. Playing along with Xing Wang's low-profile act for his mom, Kong acted like the two had just met over some small errand. Once they stepped outside, Kong reported the day's special task had been handled. Xing Wang praised his efficiency. Elsewhere, Dai's phone rang. It was Mr. Jiao. You're out of the road repair project, Jiao said flatly. What? The deal's already finalized. I've scheduled my workers. New regulations. You didn't pass review, Jiao replied, and hung up. Just like that, a 1 million yuan deal went poof. By nightfall, Dai showed up at Jiao's club haunt with red envelopes stuffed with cash, begging to be let back in on the deal. He even upped Jiao's share to 40%. Instead of the expected greed, Jiao slapped the envelopes off the table and barked. "Are you trying to bribe me?" Security tossed Dai out on his face, the cash scattering like confetti. In another private room at the same club, Jiao transformed into the world's politest man, bowing as he thanked Xing Wang for funding better roads for the people. Xing Wang, inwardly cursing the man's hypocrisy, replied, "I don't care about the village. My parents live there, and the roads are garbage. Will they last more than a year this time?" Feeling seen through, Jiao swore they'd be built to the highest standards. At that moment, the mysterious system in Xing Wang's head finally chimed in. Congratulations for spending money generously and showing high moral character. Bonus incoming. Xing Wang thought, so that's why you've been so quiet. You were saving up for something big. Back at his uncle's house, Hang Dai slammed himself onto the couch like a punctured inflatable, scrolling through his phone with all the enthusiasm of a man who just lost both his job and his dignity. His wife, standing in the doorway with her hands on her hips, began her daily Olympic-level rant. "Unemployed and lying around all day, playing with your phone instead of doing chores? If I'd known you were just a big-talking freeloader, I would have chosen Hang Xing Wang instead." Mentioning his cousin was like waving a red flag at a bull. Dai's glare could have curdled milk, but his wife didn't flinch. "Don't look at me like that. Even a bird in the hand will fly away if the hand is useless. Go kiss Mr. Zhao's feet and get your job back instead of showing off and looking like a complete fool." Then, with the grace of a woman aiming to ruin her husband's entire week, she added, "Maybe I should just go to Xing Wang and seduce my childhood sweetheart. Those pants though." Before she could finish her sentence, Dai lunged, grabbed her by the collar, and slapped her hard enough to send her sprawling. "You yap all day and don't earn a single penny in this house," he barked. "Shut your mouth." While the Dai household descended into domestic disaster, things at the Xing residence were looking up. Xing Wang's parents had just been paid a visit by Manager Kong, who explained, ever so politely, that the upcoming road construction would require 1 square meter of their land. As an apology, the company would renovate their entire house. The couple stared at him like he just offered them a free moon landing. "If that's not enough," Kong added smoothly, "we can also offer some monetary compensation." They were essentially being given a brand new house in exchange for 1 square meter of dirt. "What the hell is going on?" Dad muttered under his breath. Mom, not wanting to look greedy, accepted the renovation with a polite smile, chalking it up to pure luck. Dad, on the other hand, was already dialing Xing Wang to share the news, practically bouncing in his chair. A few days later, Xing Wang was at the bus station with his parents, luggage packed for his return to the big city. "Take care of yourself," Mom said, hugging him tightly. "And wait until you see the renovated house when you come back." He forced a smile, hiding the heaviness in his chest, and waved goodbye. From the bus to the airport, he mulled over his plans, and his bank account, which had grown a very satisfying amount from this short trip. At the airport's first-class lounge, Fate decided to have a little fun. He spotted a familiar face, Howen, his former colleague. "What are the odds?" She laughed. They caught up. She was on a business trip for a rural revitalization campaign. Company-ordered image change. He explained that he'd been back home to care for his mom. She remembered how he'd resigned when the company refused to give him leave and felt guilty. When she asked about his next move, he confidently revealed, "Not joining another company. Starting my own business. Right across from my old job, just to annoy my former boss." Her eyes lit up. "Need help? I know some great editors and photographers." Then her phone rang. It was Manager Hugh again. She muttered, "This guy's been calling me all day." The second she answered, his voice boomed. "Why are you ignoring my calls? Go live right now and compete with the rival team. I'm about to board my flight." She replied sharply. "Next flight's in 10 hours. I can't get another ticket. Rest time doesn't exist in this industry." He sneered, apparently forgetting he spent most of his working hours groping his secretary. She'd had enough. "I've been top-ranked for 6 months straight. I've done everything you've asked while your contract's still valid." He cut in smugly. "Do as I say, or I'll sue for breach of contract." That's when Xing Wang, who had been listening nearby, calmly took the phone. "How much is her breach of contract fee?" he asked. "Also, this call's being recorded, so watch your mouth before I sue you for defamation." Hugh scoffed, ranting about how Xing Wang couldn't afford it. The young man hung up mid-sentence. Howen stared at him like he just offered to buy her the moon. "I'll pay it," he said simply. She shook her head. "No, it's too much. I can pay it off bit by bit with my savings. He just gives me trouble now and then. It's not worth that kind of move." "It is," Xing Wang insisted. "I'm starting a media company. I want familiar faces. You're perfect for the launch. What better way to start than by poaching the top talent from Meow Group?" Her eyes widened. "You're building a rival company?" He nodded. You'll get half your monthly earnings until the fee's paid off. After that, we split net income 70 to 30, you get the 70. She blinked. That's actually too much. Most companies give 50% at best. Sometimes 20 to 30%. You've always treated me like an equal. He said sincerely. You even helped me when you didn't have to. I invest in people, and I know you have a bright future. The breach fee? That's nothing compared to your potential. Think of it as an advance. Her cheeks flushed. He was clearly throwing her a lifeline, yet making it sound like she was doing him a favor. Finally, she smiled. All right. I'm in.
And this is how this part of this manhwa ends. Also in the future I will be bringing more and more exciting videos. Please subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, hit the like button and stay tuned until the next video.